Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania.
Where we discuss history and haunts.
Today's story takes us to a brewery, one of your favorite types of places in the world, in Chester County. I'm Sarah.
And I'm David.
Let's get into it. So, Iron Hill Brewery. This is right by my dad and stepmom's house, and we've been there a few times. I've been going to this area since high school, and my dad used to eat here all the time with his colleagues because it's right by his business. And we still go semi-regularly, I'd say. I don't know. I've never had a paranormal experience there, and I actually didn't even know that it was haunted or that it had a history. And just to clarify, because Iron Hill is a chain, we're talking specifically about the Westchester location.
Yeah, I was really surprised when you were like, did you know Iron Hill was haunted? No, not at all.
Yeah.
Because it's like I wouldn't say like upscale, but it's like a...
Yeah.
It's like a nice little eatery and brewery combo. Yeah. I would have never guessed haunted by any means, because it looks fairly new too.
Right. And I think that's because it's in a building called the Merchant Building that sits on the corner of Gay Street and High Street in Westchester. And the building's been renovated a few times, so I think that's why it looks new. But actually, a Revolutionary War hospital used to stand where the brewery is now. Coincidentally, Iron Hill is named after a Revolutionary War landmark in Delaware, so it has a few ties to the Revolutionary War. And this hospital was used during the Battle of Brandywine, which we discussed in another episode, and you'll see some ghosts reappearing in this story. And as we know, it was a really bloody battle and many people died there, and it was 10 square miles, so it encompassed a really big part of the land. So prior to being converted to an office space and restaurant in 1996, it used to be a Woolworths, which is like that old place where you could eat at the counter. There are other companies in the building as well, but all paranormal reports seem to happen in the brewery itself. The building actually sold last year, and I wonder if even more changes will be coming, but I never knew that there was so much history to this building. And I feel like you said you would never know it just by looking. Like, it looks like an older building, but I don't know if I thought it dated back super far and had that much history.
Right. Yeah, because like you tell the bones are certainly older, but not... Iron Hill is a very new feeling location. I actually don't know how long it's even been open, though, in that location.
It just said that it was converted to restaurant space in 96, so I don't know. And I know that Iron Hill's lease is still going on there for like a few more years, but I didn't find when it actually started being there.
Gotcha.
So moving on to the ghost story. Most of the reports come from employees because it seems that the restaurant is most active at night. But I will say, and you know this from experience, that it's normally quite loud in there. So I'm wondering if things are happening, but they just can't be heard.
Yeah, I mean, it is a busy location. They get a lot of good business because the beer's pretty good, admittedly.
Yeah, I know you were like, I haven't had their beer in so long. How could I give an update on it? But it's about the ghosts, not the beer.
Por que no los dos?
I mean, honestly. So most of the things that are reported are auditory. And that's why I think that they could be happening during the day. So the main report is the sound of chains being dragged along the ground. And late at night, when employees are closing up, they've also reported voices murmuring and floors creaking, even though there's no one there.
Interesting. Chains being dragged along the ground. So
yeah.
Like along wood? Or like, I wonder what the material reported it sounds like.
I don't know.
But also, chains are very unique. I don't think we've heard in any of our other podcasts anything along those lines of like chains being dragged.
No, it's definitely a new sound. And I have a theory. At the end, I'll tell you my theory for why it's there. Many people also report seeing shadow figures or simply feeling as if they aren't alone in the building. And this happens so frequently that many people who work there refuse to work alone at night.
I totally get the idea of wanting to work not alone at night when there's like a lot of paranormal happenings.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
And I do have 2 firsthand reports from people that worked there. So a report from a bartender that worked there said I guess a bar manager is probably the more appropriate title, said that they were doing inventory late one night when suddenly every single computer on the second floor crashed. Now, you work with computers, so scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not at all and 10 being incredibly. How likely is it for every computer to crash?
At the same time? Mm-hmm. Fairly unlikely.
Yeah, I feel like it's a 1, especially when I tell you the computers downstairs still worked.
Okay. I mean, I do work in security too, so that makes me think almost, I don't know, like somebody could have been in your systems, but that's also very unlikely, because why would you
How would you separate it by floor?
Different networks?
I don't know. Anyways, let's just say, for the purpose of this conversation, it's unlikely. It's a 1. So they had to go downstairs to finish their work. So as soon as they went downstairs, they had the feeling that they weren't alone, and they heard very loudly this sound of the chains clanking, and they also heard voices, but they couldn't discern what the voices were saying. So they left, and the next day they investigated why all the computers crashed, because as a business you would want to know, and they found no logical reason. So the bar manager chalked it up to that the ghost just wanted him downstairs because of the activity.
Sure.
Another staff member reported that they were closing one night and heard not just clanking of chains, but very distinctly chains being dragged across the floor. And other people have reported it, but this person emphasized it so much that it sounded so incredibly real. And so they walked towards the sound to see if they could see what it was, but then the sound suddenly stopped. And they turned back around to turn off the lights, but the sound resumed behind them. And when they went to clock out, they heard the sound in a different part of the restaurant, as if someone was truly moving around and dragging a chain behind them.
Oh. I guess my real question with this is, like, so with its history of being a revolutionary hospital, or former, revolutionary hospital, how do the chains link into this?
Yes, glad you asked. Here's my theory. What?
Pun intended. Chains
link.
Chains
link. That's funny. So I kept thinking that too. Like, what are the chains? Did they chain people to the bed? That doesn't make sense, because I'm pretty sure you would just kill people on the opposing side, not chain them to a bed. And then I thought maybe if they had a procedure, they had to chain their arms down. So I did more research on the area, because, again, this area has a lot of history. And I found that there were the gallows nearby on a hill. So my thought is these ghosts don't actually, like, live in the Iron Hill building, but they're making their walk to the gallows through the building. And that's where you hear the chains.
Oh, interesting. Was there like a prison or some sort of holding area very close by?
Yes. And if you were, current day there are buildings in the way, but if you were to walk as the crow flies to get from the holding area to the gallows, you would pass through this building. So it could make sense. That's just my theory looking at it. Obviously, we can't confirm or deny that. But I did keep thinking, like, why the chains? So from the street, there are also reports, and the report is of a female ghost looking out the window on the second floor. Not much is said about what she looks like, but apparently she just stares at people as they pass by, and many people think that she must have been a nurse there during the war that's just overseeing everything now. In addition to the ghosts that seem to haunt the building itself, it seems that there are many active ghosts in Westchester that also interact with this building. So back in the Brandywine Battlefield episode, we talked about sightings of the Angel of the Brandywine Battlefield, who walks around and monitors for any British troops that are coming, and that ghost has actually been sighted right outside Iron Hill.
That's how?
Because it's in the same area. It was a revolutionary hospital, and the ghost walks around, but they know that it's this ghost, or they think it's the same ghost, because he walks through the sidewalk, if you remember from that episode.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the characteristic. So they see this figure. So I thought that was interesting that it tied back. And then the other ghost is the ghost of John Tully, And he doesn't haunt Iron Hill, he haunts the Lincoln Room, which is nearby. But it does tie into Iron Hill. So in 1788, he was convicted and punished for stealing a horse. That's all that I read about it, because I didn't want to dig too much into the Lincoln Room. But it seems like he definitely stole the horse from the wrong person, because he was subject to gruesome punishments leading up to his execution. It was said that his mental state deteriorated so much by the time he was executed, he was screaming and howling with laughter when he was being executed.
What do you know, like, what gruesome tortures he was subjected to?
I did not look into it.
Okay. So,
the screaming and howling with the jail being right there, or the holding, I'm not sure if it's a jail, prison, etc. But it is said that you can hear the echoes of his screaming and howling laughter through the streets of Westchester at night, especially in conjunction with the sound of chains in the building.
Oh.
So maybe those two are tied together?
They could be. I mean, if it's an execution ground, it's not going to be only one person brought through, so it could be multiple ghosts, but it could be one and the same as well.
Yeah, and it does seem like the activity is tied together. So like you said, even if it is multiple ghosts, maybe it's just like a more active night for them, but it's not one-to-one. So when you hear the chains, you're more likely to hear John Tully's screaming and howling laughter, but it's not like a guarantee that you'll hear both at the same time. So they just seem to be associated.
Yeah, that seems to make the most sense to me.
So I've been here many times for food. It's a good brewery, like you said, walking distance from my parents' house. I would personally love to go at night to see if I heard anything, because it sounds like it's just creepy. There's not really any physical manifestations of ghosts here with, like, we've seen hair pulling and stuff. It just seems like noises and then sightings from the street. So I would go. What about you?
Yeah, I'd easily go. I'd especially go at night and have a couple beers as we do it.
It does say that there's a haunted Westchester tour. So if we're in the area next October to see my parents, we can definitely do it, and we can provide an update.
Yeah, I think that would be absolutely a blast.
Right. I mean, anything that has brewery in it, I feel like you're down.
Yes.
So thank you for tuning in today for this episode of Paranormal in Pennsylvania. Join us next Thursday to see what hauntings we discuss next.